Now I would like to invite Dr. Selim Jahan, Director of Human Development Report Office, UNDP New York, for a keynote presentation. Dr. Jahan, would you please come forward to the podium?
Excellencies, distinguished guests, friends, ladies and gentlemen. It's my honor and pleasure to be here to launch the 2015 Human Development Report. I'm very thankful to JICA Research Institute as well as UNDP Tokyo for co-organizing it. It's good to see some old friends, Mr. Tomo, Mr. Shimada, as well as colleagues from UNDP Tokyo, like Mr. Tando and Ms. Yokikoku. But it is also good to have new friends. And I'm pretty sure that through our interactions, through our presentation, we have a lovely evening today. Work is the defining issue of our time. This is a challenge that every society around the world is facing today. The world of work is changing very fast, with significant human development implications, some positive, some negative. The Sustainable Development Goals, or SDGs, are also linked to the issue of work. These are precisely the reasons why the 2015 Human Development Report has chosen work for human development as its theme. Because we thought, if not now, when? And if not us, who? In that broader context, I would just focus on three fundamental questions. One, what are the basic messages of 2015 Human Development Report? Two, what are the fundamental findings of this particular report? And three, what are the policy options that this report suggests that we put forward to enhance human development through work? There are 5 basic messages in this particular report. One, work is broader than paid jobs and employment. From a human development perspective, work embraces unpaid care work, voluntary work, creative expressions like music, painting, literature, writing. Because those are the things which enhance human capabilities and also improve human opportunities. So the first message is work is just not paid jobs or employment. Work is a broader notion than that. Message number 2, the world of work is changing very fast, where the what, who, where, how of work are changing quite rapidly. Message number 3, there are gender imbalances in both paid and unpaid work. And those gender imbalances have huge human development implications. The 4th message is sustainable work and sustainable development goals are mutually reinforcing. Each help each other in order to move forward. And finally, in order to enhance work and also to enhance human development, it is imperative that we have a set of strategic, pragmatic policy options as well as an action agenda. Given those broad framework and basic messages, there are also 5 major findings. First, over the last quarter of a century, there has been impressive progress on many fronts of human development, and work has contributed to that. Over the last quarter of a century, 2 billion people have been lifted out of low human development, and more than 1 billion people have escaped extreme poverty. The work of 1 billion people engaged in agriculture, the creativity of 450 million entrepreneurs around the world, the helping hands of 930 million volunteers have contributed to this progress. But at the same time, significant deprivations persist, and a huge human potential remains unused. 795 million people suffer from hunger, and more than 800 million adults are illiterates. Every minute, 11 children under 5 are dying. Every hour, we are losing 33 mothers while giving the birth of a child. There are more than 800 million people whom we are terming as working poor. They are working all right, but they are living on less than $2 a day. So the basic fundamental finding is that in order to accelerate the progress that we have achieved so far, as well as to overcome the gaps that are there, it is imperative that we forge a positive link between work and human development. The fundamental second finding of this particular report is, even though intrinsically work enhances human development, there is no automatic link between work and human development. There are some work which damage human development. There are some work which put workers at risk. Worldwide, there are 168 million children who are working as child labor. The capabilities of these children are shrunk. There are 21 million people who are in forced labor. Their rights are violated, their dignities are shattered. Every day, 30 million workers go to work in mining, and we all know in what dangerous conditions they work in. So therefore, the basic point is the linkage between work and human development is not automatic. And it is not only the quantity of work that is important, it is also the quality of work which is equally valuable. The third finding is the world of work is changing very fast. And the two major drivers behind the change are A, globalization, and B, digital revolution. Today, the global trade in goods and services stands at $23 trillion, which is almost double about a decade ago. Today, 7 billion people have mobile subscriptions, and more than 3 billion people use internet. So we live in a globalized and digitally revolutionized world. But we have to remember that globalization and digital revolution create opportunities, but also pose risks. There are winners, but there are also losers. There has never been a better time to be a worker with high skill. There has never been a worse time to be a worker with low skill or no skill. If we look at the global value chain, we find that 453 million workers are engaged there, of which 109 93 million are women. But at the same time, more than 1.5 billion people are engaged in what is termed as vulnerable employment. We also know that in the workplace, at work, the inequalities between the earnings of high-skilled workers and low-skilled workers are now going up. Today, the top 1% of global population owns 51% of global wealth. And the earnings between high-skilled and low-skilled are now diverging more and more. So the basic point is the changing world of work is not only a boon, but there are also risks. There are winners, but we also have to think about the losers. The fourth major finding is related to the fact that there are significant imbalances or gender imbalances in paid and unpaid work. We looked at the Time Use survey of 63 countries, which basically cover about 68% of global population. Men dominate the world of paid work. Women are mostly engaged in the world of unpaid work. In the world of paid work, women are disadvantaged in terms of participation, representation, and pay. While 72% of economically active men are employed, the comparable figure for women is only 47%. If we look at global businesses, the share of women senior managers is only 22%. And 34% of global businesses do not have any women at senior management position. Globally, women earn 24% less than that of men. Even when we compare senior managers, in Latin America, the women senior managers earn only 53% of their male counterparts. This is a huge economic loss. If the gender equality or inequality at work is removed, the GDP of Sub-Saharan Africa alone will go up by $74 billion a year. This is a missed opportunity. When we move to the world of unpaid care work, women carry the major burden of that particular work. Out of 4 hours of unpaid care work, women carry out 3 hours, men 1 hour. In Sub-Saharan Africa, every day, women spend 200 million hours just to fetch water. Now, with demographic transition, structural changes in the society, with the composition of the families changing, and with global epidemics like Ebola, the care gap would go on, and the major burden of that gap will still be falling on women. In order to address these issues, 3 R's would be needed. First, reducing the care work burden of women. Second, rebalancing the roles and responsibilities of men and women in paid and unpaid care work. And third, valuing the unpaid care work at a proper pace. The final major finding is related to the issue of sustainable work and sustainable development goals. And as we have said, they are mutually reinforcing. What do we mean by sustainable work? Sustainable work is that kind of work that simultaneously enhances human development as well as ensures environmental sustainability. Just think of providing solar power kind of panels to poor households in a poor community. Through this, you are enhancing the livelihood, the standard of living for those poor households, but at the same time, you are also ensuring environmental sustainability. Now, if we want to forge the linkages between sustainable work and sustainable human development or sustainable development goals, three things would be needed. One, termination of some work, as Poland has been doing with regard to its coal industry over the last 25 years. Second, transformation of some work. For example, bringing in labor standards to the ship-breaking industry, which employs thousands of people in many economies. And third, creation of new types of work. For example, in the renewable energy sector. If 6 countries of the world, the USA, China, India, Indonesia, South Africa, and Brazil, spend only 1.5% of their GDP to renewable energy sector, every year 14 million jobs would be created. One has to remember that sustainable development goals and sustainable work are mutually linked. Sustainable development goals refers to sustainable work. For example, goal number 8, where we talk about inclusive growth, productive employment, and decent work. Similarly, sustainable work can also contribute to sustainable development goals. For example, goal number 1, elimination of extreme poverty, or goal number 2, ending hunger. Finally, when we look at the issues of policies, we try to stress that enhancing human development through work would require very targeted, very specific, concrete policy options, and at the same time, an action agenda. The whole chapter 6 of the report is devoted to policy options, and I don't want to bore you with the details, but let me just highlight some of the new and innovative ideas that we have provided there. The policy options basically are clustered into 3 clusters. 1, strategies for creating work opportunities for both men and women. 2, strategies for enhancing workers' benefits as well as their rights. And 3rd, strategies for targeted actions for particular groups. In that broader context, there are certain proposals which are new and innovative. First, we have suggested that developing countries should consider having national employment strategies. Employment has been out of fashion for quite some time, and maybe the time has come to bring it back to the center of development discourse, debate, and dialogue. Such employment strategies can be part of the broader national development strategies like 5-year plans in many countries, or part of the poverty reduction programs as that happen in many countries. 27 countries have been adopting that kind of national employment strategies with good results. Second, for too long, we have been told and taught that if there is economic growth, there will be job creation. In societies after societies, in economies after economies, economic growth has taken place, but jobs have not been created. We have seen the phenomena of jobless growth in many economies over the years. So we have suggested that maybe rather than thinking about growth-led employment, why can't we think about employment-led growth? Why can't we create jobs in those sectors where poor people live and try to enhance their skill and productivity, which would lead to further growth? So in this manner, you are creating an upward spiral between employment, growth, further employment, and that kind of a cycle would be a virtuous cycle. Third, most of the central banks around the world has one mandate, and the mandate is inflation targeting. We are suggesting, why can't the central bank have dual mandate, inflation targeting as well as employment targeting? If that is the case, then we can bring in monetary policies as well as monetary policy instruments to work with fiscal policies and fiscal policy instruments to enhance the creation of work in many economies. Fourth, in many countries there are social protection programs, big ones, well-known ones, Bolsa Familia in Brazil or Prospera in Mexico. In many economies there are employment guarantee schemes, for example, National Rural Guarantee Scheme in India. Why can't we just combine those two, the social protection schemes and the guaranteed work scheme, so that simultaneously we can achieve the goal of employment, job creation, at the same time providing protection socially to people. Finally, issues of, for example, flexible working arrangement, the issues of paternal parental leave, the issues of remote working, those are some of the issues that we have put forward for consideration, for debate and dialogue. Apart from policy options, we have also suggested 3 action agenda. First, we thought that the time has come to have discussions, discourses, debates and dialogues on what we call a new social contract. After the Industrial Revolution, after the Second World War, we have developed a kind of a working arrangement. We have developed a kind of a different roles for the employers, employees, and the state. And that has worked so far. But now with the changes in the world of work, where people are working remotely, people are not part of the kind of the traditional organization that we are aware of. There are crowd workers who are working remotely, but not part of any institutional arrangement. A new informality has emerged. There are part-time workers, there are temporary workers. So the question is, who is looking after their benefits and how are you going to guarantee their rights? So therefore, there may be some discussions, discourses and debates for a new social contract. Second, we are also suggesting there has to be a kind of a global deal. Yes, every country has its own national laws, labor standards, but there are also externalities. There are also requirements by consumers from outside. There are also criteria put forward by those who are demanding your output. So in many cases, your national standards, national laws cannot cover some of those issues. So if we can discuss globally to have kind of a minimum standards, have kind of a minimum deal, maybe we shall be able to ensure the benefits as well as ensure the rights of the workers in various industries, for example, industries like garment industries. And we are aware that in many countries there have been lots of accidents, there have been lots of issues with those regard. And finally, we have also reiterated the importance of the decent work agenda of ILO, which talks about creation of work opportunities, labor standards, labor rights, social dialogue. We believe that those are critically important for human development, as decent work agenda and human development are mutually reinforcing. In conclusion, we live in a world which is unequal, unstable, and unsustainable. When 80% of the global population owns only 6% of global wealth, the world is unequal. The sources of instability can come from different places. The sources of instability may come from economic and financial crisis, as we have seen in 2008, 2009. It can come from natural disasters, as we have seen in different parts of the world. It can come from just violent extremism. Shocks and vulnerabilities would be a norm of our time rather than an exception. And the issue of unsustainability has been discussed last year quite extensively, and the world has adopted the 2030 Development Agenda. Work can contribute positively in addressing all these challenges. But that work has to be quality work. That work has to be safe work. That work will have to reduce inequality rather than increase it. That work has to be gender sensitive. That work has to be environment friendly. The choice is ours. We can pursue that kind of an agenda, or we can do business as usual. But we have to remember that the kind of choices we make today will determine the kind of the world that we will be living for our children and grandchildren. The kind of choices we make today will determine the kind of the world that we shall be living in future. And who doesn't know that in the ultimate analysis, human destiny is a choice and not a chance. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Jahan.